Hey music friends, today I want to show you how to get your finished mixes louder so that they stand a fighting chance when comparing them to the big boys. Let's get started. First, I want to say thank you to all of the new subscribers. Thank you so much for checking out the videos and joining this community. And if this is your first time here and you want to learn how to make great sounding music from your home or bedroom studio, start right now by subscribing and make sure to click the bell icon so that you don't miss anything. So here's the scenario. You've worked for weeks, maybe even months to get the perfect mix. You've spent so much time balancing it and getting those effects just right and making sure that the panning is set correctly and the vocals are perfectly placed within that mix. But when you export it and take it out to your car stereo to listen to it, it sounds so much quieter than your favorite songs on your iTunes playlist. We've all been there. It's happened to all of us. And I recently had a subscriber ask me how to get that mix louder so that it's closer in volume to what he's used to hearing on the radio. Well, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to get a louder mix. Now, this is by no means a complete guide on loudness and how to master your tracks, rather just some basic principles to get you started thinking about how you can mix and prepare your tracks to get the most volume out of them if that's what you're going for. The short answer on how to make this happen is by using compression and using a limiter. Today, I'm going to show you one method by using a limiter on the master fader or the stereo bus to get the volume that we're looking for. So I have a mix here that I've been working on, and I'm actually going to bounce this mix to a stereo track that we can make louder with. Okay, here's the stereo mix down of the song I was looking at previously. And let's go to the loudest portion of this song, which is the bridge, and let's take a look at our master output meters and see where we stand right now in terms of volume. Okay, so we are peaking right now at about minus 7.6, which is in a really good spot in terms of giving ourselves plenty of headroom to make sure that we are not going above 0 dB. 0 dB in the digital world is the loudest that we can get a sound before it starts to clip or distort, and that sounds bad, so we never want to do that. So looking at this, you might say, well, why don't we just turn up the fader on the master output until we get it closer to 0 dB? Well, we could do that, but we won't be able to get it as loud as it can be, or at least sound as loud as it can be. We now want to take a look at and pay attention to an RMS meter, or the average volume of a sound, not the peak volume, but the average volume. So let's put a limiter on this master fader, and I'll walk you through how to get this set up. And then I want to share some tips with you and some things to watch out for and ways that you can prepare your tracks and mixes to be able to get the most volume out of them if that's what you're going for. So here is the adaptive limiter, which is a stock limiter inside of Logic Pro 10. And I would suggest that you start by using whatever limiter comes with your DAW. You can start to get loudness and learn how these things work and how they will affect the sound of your mix by using stock plugins. So a couple of controls that you want to pay attention to. This limiter has something called the ceiling. Other limiters call this the margin, but this is basically the loudest that you want to allow a sound, or this song in this case, to be. So if 0 dB is the loudest we can get without clipping, you would say, let's just set it at 0 dB, which sounds good. Except people that are a lot smarter than me have figured out that during the process of exporting and mixing down your songs and changing them into a format that you can listen back to, small variations actually will introduce volume that you didn't know was there previously. So in order to give yourself plenty of room to make sure that you are not clipping, but still getting it as loud as it can be, I would suggest setting your ceiling or your margin to -0.3. Some people say negative 0.1, others say negative 0.5. It doesn't really matter other than just giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that you're not getting any kind of distortion. Now what we want to do is take a look at the gain, or other limiters call this the threshold that you will pull down as opposed to turning up the gain. But either way, what you are doing is you are feeding more signal into the limiter until it starts to limit or reduce the peaks of that sound. So I'm going to start turning up the gain and making this track louder. So turn down your headphones or your speakers if you need to, and let's see what we can come up with. While you're doing this, there's another number actually that you need to pay attention to, and that is the reduction, or how much the limiter is limiting your song. Notice that we made it quite a bit louder, and this reduction meter peaked at about 2.7. So it reduced the peaks of my song by 2.7 dB. Now I would suggest that as you're learning and as you're getting started, you don't want to see this reduction number go above 4. Any higher than that, and you will really start to ruin or hurt the overall impact of your mix. Don't go super crazy. You'll be able to get a lot of volume by using a limiter this way, but you don't need to go overboard, which is actually my first tip in this approach. Make sure that you don't destroy the dynamic range of your song. Pay attention to anything in your mix that is super transient, anything that has a very fast or loud attack that decays quickly. Drums, cymbals, sometimes electric guitars, synth stabs, one hits, anything like that that hits really hard. You'll want to pay attention to those things. You'll want to treat them dynamically. You'll want to compress or perhaps limit and kind of tame or bring in the dynamic range of those tracks. Because if you leave them untreated, you'll only be able to bring up the volume to a certain point before you'll really start to hear the limiting. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, guys, and share it with a music friend who wants to learn how to make great music from their home or bedroom studio. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for sticking around and watching the video, and until next time, see ya.